Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm finally going to do another reading. It's been a while, and it's been a while since I've been reading in general because I've been focusing more on, or life has me focusing more on energy work sessions. So I feel a little bit rusty coming on and talking like this. So much has been going on. I know a lot of us are in a very, very different energetic space. In fact, I think we all are. I feel we all are. Today is 6/7, so we're right in that 6/6 portal. And for me, I had been feeling this energy coming in for like the last 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know how long it's been, but it was as if it was something like out ahead of me that I could sense, where it was like it was coming to me, or I was going to it, or we were merging together, and it was just sort of anticipatory and exciting, and there were all these things weaving in. And then all of a sudden it was like I couldn't see it anymore because I was in it, like it's particles and my particles have merged. And then of course realizing this has happened for me before. I was talking about this, was this around the same time last year? Oh my gosh, it was July or August. I was actually having anxiety because I felt something coming in, and I was expecting something, what is it? And then what I realized once I was in the energy of it is that it was me. It was more of me, right? So that's how it is again. I've been talking about that sort of like cone shape that I've been sensing and feeling in sessions out people's crowns, where we're having more. This has been going on for a while, but especially lately, where we're having more access to more of ourselves, to more of our psychic perception, to more of a fine-tuned perception, or extra sensory or interdimensional, right? All this stuff kind of opening up, which means that we're getting more of ourselves. So that's what I'm realizing is like, okay, I'm really in this soup with me. But what's interesting is that, so this is one of the main things that I'm feeling and noticing is that so it's interesting, the 6/6 portal. So I always talk about the sixes. I don't know if other people say this, probably, but it's just how I perceive them. Like the 6 is like the container on the earth for our higher aspects, for the higher frequencies. And it's like the 6s always come through for me about anchoring down in our lives, in our relationships, on the earth, in our co-creations, our unique aspect of all it is. So here we are in this 6/6 portal. And so what I've been noticing, and somebody that I've been collaborating with lately said the same thing yesterday, which was so confirming, is that it's as we're bringing this higher aspect of ourselves, of reality down, we have to interface with the physical because we're bringing it into the physical, right? So for me, there's been so much in the physical. And I know for a lot of us, we've done a lot of work in the astral, in the invisible, like quietly, like all of our service was like in the middle of the night, in our beds, up all night, fighting demons or deciphering frequencies or claiming our divinity, and all this. And for me, that's been going on for like a decade now, if not more, and so it's, and it was kind of the way of being, you just special ops all the time underneath, behind. And now it feels like there's, okay, so there's that, right? But it feels like phase 1 of the mission is ending, and we're moving into this really, really anchoring. It's like we've discerned and deciphered what was real and what isn't, what we're here for, retrieving our memories, clearing off. And of course, this is still going on, right? But a lot of us have been just kind of like, it's all we've been doing for a while, right? So, and then getting to this point now in these energies where the task is more about, or now able to be about, walking that forward onto the earth. And so, and you might be noticing this in lots of different ways. Like for me, for example, there's like the manifestations have been really, really fast. Like I'll think of something, or I'll be like, oh, I want something, or, oh, I wish I had this, or I don't like this anymore, or blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I say it, like the next day or 2 days later, this has happened like 3 or 4 or 5 times now. There will be this string of events. And actually, most of those things, like all of them, have been sort of tied up in the string of events. So I've had like, 3 or 4 or 5 things that I'm like, oh, I want that, or, oh, that would be nice, or, oh, you feel the desire, the soul call for something, even if it's something in your physical reality, right? There's a reason for it, right? There's a reason. And so I would put that out there into the field, not with any expectation or intention of doing anything about it, just kind of like chirping, this, listening, speaking. And then this string of events that just rearranged everything in this magical way, where all of those things appeared, like effortlessly. So I'm noticing this. And I don't want to get heady about it, because we get heady about it, and then it kind of breaks the link up. But yeah, just noticing, noticing and paying attention. And I think a lot of that is also like, oh, I want this, or I would prefer this, and then just kind of staying in that channel where you're not trying to make anything happen, and you're not worrying that it won't happen, and you're not attaching to it as happening. You just put out the order, and then you live your life, and it rearranges. So I feel like a lot of that stuff is getting easier, whereas before maybe it would take you like months or years or weeks or whatever. Now it's happening really quickly, or it's possible to be happening really quickly, especially for those of us that have really crawled through the sewer for a long time, and cleared out a lot of that stuff. Then it's like there's a lot of magic coming in. But the other thing that I'm feeling in terms of like having something happen in the physical, so that's what I was getting at, is like a lot of those things that were happening were things in my home. So like rearranging things, or wow, even like struggling. Like I have this NutriBullet thing, and it would leak. Like every morning it would leak, and I was like, oh, maybe I need a new seal, and maybe I should buy another one. And then the one day I was just like, just tightened it really tight, and it didn't leak. Like it's so obvious. It's so obvious, but there are lots of like going to the like minutia, right? Little things like that where life is just flowing more because there's like more room to even pay attention in the physical, where you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Why am I doing it like this? I can do it like this, right? And so you notice this like phases. I remember other phases in my life and a lot of cleaning out. I'm doing a lot of clearing out things again, and rearranging things, getting rid of things. I did a dump run yesterday, which fell in my lap. Like that was another one of the manifestation things. And but rearranging things so that the environment feels better. And I know a lot of that is like when we've done a big up level and we've changed within our consciousness and within our energetic frequency and alignment, our outer reality will rearrange to reflect that. So it might come through as a desire of like, oh, I want this, I want this, but it's actually like the soul, like, you need this because this doesn't match you anymore. This doesn't match you, or the way that your energy is moving in your home isn't a match to how your energy, like it's all a reflection, right? It's not a match to how it's moving through your energy field. So everything needs to rearrange, because it's like we're merged with our environments. Our environments and our relationships are always a reflection of what we're holding and what we're transmitting. So when we do a big shift, everything around us shifts, right? So I am seeing that really physically in my house. I'm also seeing it really physically in my body, whereas my body is so tight. Like I wake up in the morning, or if I sit for too long, I'm like, oh my God. And I know it's not just like, oh, I'm getting older, because these things, again, will come in cycles where sometimes the body's really stiff and other times it's not. And so you start to notice the patterns. You start to see when you're up leveling, or when you've up leveled. So that's the other thing. When we're up leveling, or when we're receiving more of ourselves, which a lot of that is just a reflection of the energies. It's not even a reflection of the work we're doing, or the work we're doing or have done have always been a reflection of the energies. Like when the solar flares come in, targets a certain area. Maybe it's purifying and activating your heart, or maybe it's doing your throat, or maybe it's doing your solar plexus, right? So it's like this wisdom and this communication. Again, we're merged with our environment, with everything around us. It's us always, it's always a relationship. It's always a reflection, right? So we're like two chemicals meeting, right? You meet with something, you meet with a solar energy, it changes you, it reconfigures you, right? So even the purges are a result of our unity with the things around us, right? That's the truth of it, right? We're never isolated, just going through our individual things, or failing, or, because it's like somebody wrote to me recently, and she was like, gosh, I feel like I move forward and then I go back, and what am I doing wrong? And it's like the perfect untangling of our knot, and our Akashic knot, and our galactic knot. And, the way we sometimes in divine timing have to go backwards and have that perfect trigger to get us to purge and to feel and to notice the patterns of thought that we need to rewire and change, and that all of it's in service. When I was meditating this morning, I just kind of paused and, just kind of like waited and listened and asked for, like what wants to come through. And it was that message. And I was kind of like, oh, why that message? And maybe for this reading, maybe somebody needed to hear this, but that reminder of like, no matter what it looks like, it's in service to your and the world's unification and soul retrieval of the lost part. So to never judge ourselves when we're going through a purge, or when things get sticky again, right? Because when these energies are coming in and we're up leveling and we're activating, like every time we have an expansion, then we have to adjust to that expansion. So that might be something physical, like pain in the body, or in the outer world, moving things around and having your home and your rhythms and your expression of your alignment be playing out differently, right? Or it can be emotional or mental, right? Where you're mental looping to the point where you drive yourself crazy. Have you had those times where you like run this loop or this fear pattern or this program over and over to the point where you're like, if I keep doing this, I'm literally going to manifest my death. I need to stop, right? So you start working with that. You start working with your mind. You start working with writing things down or affirming things. Or I saw something this morning my friend posted, and it was a woman, and she was tapping, and she was actually singing it, but she was like, every cell of my body is happy and healthy. Every cell of my body is happy and healthy. And she was tapping it in, right? And so all these ways that we can work with our mind to reprogram when we see ourselves looping and looping and looping, right? But there being a divine timing for that as well, the confluence of events that needs to kind of converge, because sometimes we need to stay in that hell realm and miscreate and, kind of go through all that for a while, because that's part of the lessons that we're learning. And again, the perfection of it all. I've been talking to a lot of people who have had a lot of tears. If you have a lot of water in your elemental composition, then, a lot of people releasing just through crying and not even knowing why, or something will come up. And I was doing some work with a woman yesterday, and she was releasing through her emotional body. And I often release just through my Kundalini, like I'll just shake, like that happens in sessions I always know when something clears because it goes up my head, so we were like working with this energy and opening up beyond the firmament and beyond the 12 into the 13. That's what was coming through. And we were just kind of becoming aware of and having downloads around the limitation and reaching out beyond that. And so I was having all these clearings up and up and up and up. And then, she was doing the emotional, and we were kind of stabilizing together through those releases where two or more gather. So again, all of us kind of experiencing this in our own ways, but definitely with this quickening of this energy and this reemergence of more of ourselves, it's kicking up and clearing out everything that's no longer a match. Again, whether it's in your physical environment, in your body, in your emotional body, in your thoughts, in your relationships, and the patterns that you play out, the behaviors that you have, the habits, the rhythms, all of this just quick like dominoes, like right, being rearranged. And so I see that in sessions all the time too. When somebody clears something, and when they clear something, then the energy fields, the polarities will rebalance and reconfigure around that, because it's like, oh, something's different. Okay, let's stabilize, and then when they receive something of their, more of their higher self that's now able and ready, that they're ready to embody and merge with that aspect of themselves, then often the energy will do it again. Then it will reconfigure again to stabilize with that, right? So it's the same thing with us in our daily lives. When we become expanded and we grasp into more, then everything ripples out. The other thing that I wanted to say is this sort of remembering that what it looks like, what's happening, that we're changing because of what's happening in our lives. But what's happening in our lives is the meeting of spirit and matter, right? What's happening in our lives in relation to these energies is just the catalyst and the entry point for us to anchor that which is coming in into our bodies and onto the earth. And so, for example, again, going back to that sort of like doing everything in the invisible and doing a lot of the astral work. That's how I've always done my service. I mean, I've done, I've done energy work and I've done sessions, which is also in the behind. But in terms of myself, what I was doing, it was, again, just like alone in my bed, often rocking back and forth or pacing around my house, having downloads and stuff like that, right? So, and so I never really resonated with a lot, or I never really worked a lot with the physical. It was always really hard for me to ground. I would do sort of like spontaneous, like physical altars where all of a sudden I'd be putting stones, and then I'd put some water, and then I'd put it under the tree, and then I'd write something down, and that kind of thing, where like I would anchor and ground things in the physical, or dancing, or nature, of course. But that's why I'm always in nature so much, because it's really hard for me to feel grounded. I can just kind of drift away. I have to have a lot of sort of like routines and self-care routines just to be like, you're in a body, you're in a body, you're in a body, you're in a body, you know? And so, yeah, it's a challenge. And it took me a really long time to learn how to do that stuff. I used to just kind of be like, whoa, you know, like always overwhelmed and feeling everything like psychic sponge, but very little masculine energy integrated with me to help me find a container. So that's something I've had to figure out. And so, okay, where was I going with this? It definitely has to do with the physical. Okay. So I'm giving this example where, again, a lot of what I did, and I know a lot of you were like this too, we kind of do it in the astral. Well, I was being guided there were a whole string of things that were happening with me and the land where I'm at. So I was being guided to learn about 33rd parallel and then realize that I'm living right off kilter and sometimes directly on, depending on where I'm going. 33rd parallel, learning about that, learning about all the hijacks, the Trinity sites on the 33rd parallel, and the fact that I'm living in a huge distortion field, which explains why things can feel so strange here, so it's been this like drip line of information where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm being asked to, tune into and understand what's going on with my land. I was becoming really aware. I've been aware of this for the last 15 years, but more and more and more with the Apache overlays in the area that I'm at, and sort of that like, out of balance masculine energy when it turns to violence, right? So you can see an echo of that overlay through the people in my area, in little ways, like where communities can be very like much like, this is my community, or, this is like my land, right? Like that, it's an echo of the same thing. And of course it goes farther back than the Apache timelines, but that's how it comes through. That's like the most surface layer that's like asking for release in this land. And so I was having all these synchronicities with red jasper and feeling to work with that and doing that. And in my little parcel of land here, in my home, in this little area where I do placements and intentions and bury things and stuff like that. But I felt like there was more. So this is one of those like manifestation things where I was like, I feel like I need like support or guidance or like collaboration or something. And then as usual, was just kind of like thought that and then just carried on about my day. And so probably like a week or so later, I started feeling guided to do Laura Hazel's, she calls it Mountain Crystal Placement Program. Okay. And so I had heard about it and was just kind of like, well, I don't really do that. Like, I don't really do groups, and I don't do, I'm kind of like a lone wolf type of person. And, I just kind of do my own thing, my own little, in the moment witchy way, and, this and that. And so I just sort of was like, no. So I've been talking about that, right? When like lately I've been guided to do a lot of things that are outside of my norm, and I like get in my head and I'm like, no, I don't do that. Like, no, but then it'll keep coming, and then I do it and it opens up this whole thing, right? So you might be finding this as well. And so there were like 3 or 4 like really, really strong, loud synchronicities around this program. And so finally, I was feeling, I think I had posted, it was like a song and it was a sunset and I was out on the porch, on my porch swing in the desert. And the song was random. I just turned on Pandora and recorded, but the song was saying something's changing. I just got chills. Something's changing. And so I shared that, and Laura had commented, and my mountain was in the view, and that was one of the places that I had envisioned or been shown to place one of the crystals from her program, which I was resisting. And so anyway, at that point, that was like the 3rd or 4th synchronicity where I was like, okay. So I wrote to her, and so I did this. I did 2 placements. I have 3 stones, and so it's so crazy because the first one I did, and if we're friends on Facebook, you might have seen this when I was walking out to the mountain there, which I live with. It's so close to me, and I've just been like having this like love affair with this mountain. The last 6 years has helped me so much. I feel all this galactic energy from it, and I feel this relationship. I'm like the only person that walks out there. And so as I was walking out, there was this huge rattlesnake that was like rattling, but it was also in a strike position. And I knew it wasn't going to like do anything. I was far enough away, and it was like, I could just tell that it was shamanic, where it was like, okay, so there's just this little bit of like a reminder or a trial, or like you have to you have to kind of like walk through a little bit of danger, this type of thing. So it was all very symbolic. Anyway, gosh darn it, okay, so I did that placement, and then I did this placement on the at the Middle Fork of the river here, which was very connected to the Apache land. So there were hot springs there, natural hot springs right in the river. Turns out it's right on the 33rd parallel. It's 3311, I believe. I don't know where it was exactly where I put the crystal, but yeah. So my friend Jane and I, who is my forest buddy up in this area, not down in the desert, but up in this area, we went out and we did that, and we got caught in this huge hailstorm on the way home, and we're like driving through snow, so all this purification energy, and I like had to climb over this beaver dam, and like I fell in the water with the reeds, and I was trying not to get my phone wet, I only was, anyway. So yeah, so now crazy thing is this Wednesday, we're gonna go to Bear Mountain. I'm just sharing this because there's codes in all this, and it's just the way spirit moves. Anytime you're sharing something about your personal experience that's woven with spirit guidance, there's transmissions in it, right? So we're going up to the top of Bear Mountain. Bear Mountain is like I feel galactic energy through that as well. I think that's true for a lot of mountains, right? And then to the degree that they're kind of like capped and blocked, which I feel a lot of these crystal placements are opening up those blocks and connecting with all the other pieces around the world. She has people doing this all around the world. And so, but Bear Mountain, I was seeing that energy and that forest in my dreams before I moved here. So my friend Jane has always said that she feels it as a homing device where it calls people in. And I think part of how it does that, because it has a strong galactic transmission and reception that creates a certain energy field that then pulls people in that have something to do with that, something they need to purge in relation to that, or its history or whatever. And so, but Jane probably remembered from her past life, an old Apache medicine wheel at the top of Bear Mountain. And so she took me up there a few months ago, maybe in the winter, and we went up, and we had so many, I had so many visceral memories. There's just one field that we had felt that we were like natives running in the field. It was like a memory thing, being a part of that. So connecting with that, probably why I'm so tuned into and feeling really guided to clear this overlay and just kind of clear. Although in this lifetime, at the time that I started feeling the Apache overlay, there were certain, I didn't know that's what it was, but there were certain areas in this area where I couldn't go to. And every time I would, my car would break down and I'd be like stuck there. And it was like asking me to look at something. But I realized I was running the same energy as the overlay with my ex-husband, where I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of violence, I had a lot of, and very righteous, it was like justified, but I allowed myself to fall out of unity, and I ran that energy for a very long time. So of course, when I get into an energetic that's reflecting, that is a mirror to that, it's like, I don't want to look in that mirror, I don't want to look in that mirror. And then once I cleared everything with him and, like just went into that unconditional love space and saw it from the higher perspective and forgave everything and healed my family and all that, I was able to go into those areas. And that's when I was able to see what it was clearly, and to be feeling the call to help clear it, to help become aware of the separation from unity, holding that unity field, and then restoring and correcting. Okay, and again, going back further, but that hasn't unpacked for me, even though I do have snippets of it, doesn't matter. But anyway, so this last crystal placement, being in the Apache medicine wheel at the top of Bear Mountain, which is this powerful homing device in this area. So really amazing. And I wouldn't really be doing any of this without the guidance of Alora's program. So again, that community where two or more gather, and it's really interesting because I'm really into orange. Like orange is the color that has always just sort of been like, oh yes, and it's that sacral chakra, that creation, the life force, the sexuality, but sexuality being connected to Kundalini, to the awakening, to life force, to creativity, to spirituality, right? And so actually Alora, who really, like, we really weave, it's like she's like, I feel a soul, a part of my soul family, where we were put together. We were put together because she's I don't really have external guides, because I'm married like into a situation that was I just have a thing about that. Like no gurus, no nothing, no teachers. Like if I can't find it inside of myself, then I'm not going to have it until I do. But I do find that there are certain people that come in through synchronicity that are talking about the very next piece of the puzzle that I'm unpacking, and then just seeing over and over again, whoa, we converged again. Whoa, we converged. Oh my God, we're feeling the same thing. Oh my God, she's talking about that same thing and she just has more clarity and more access. So it's like she helps me put those puzzle pieces together just by observing her, although we are kind of interacting now. But anyway, she's just somebody that I've been matched up with, so I could say she's guiding me, but I don't like that word. It's more I'm being guided through synchronicity with her energy and her offerings. Okay, so there's an alignment there. But anyway, so just having like her intention. So when I got the stones, because there's a pendant, I'm not wearing it. I should have put it on, but this pendant and then a hand stone and then the 3 that you're placing. And I had like, same thing as with that woman. It was like all this energy just like going up and out and out and out. Oh my God, having a seizure. And then I just sort of like got in this like 0 point field where I was just like, whoo, and then for nights I wore it pretty much nonstop for a few days. And I was connecting with like her guides, because she works with the dolphins and the whales, and I was merging with all of that. I mean, I have my own connection with those things, but the thing is that it felt different. It felt different through the crystal. I was connecting with the galactics, but they all felt like her guides. So I don't know if I was seeing through her channel or if it was like up leveling me into a frequency that I had never been in before, but there was so much. And then I went through this huge body purge where my, and again, sharing this because it's my particular version of this energy, but the transmissions of this energy and how it's moving with us is in my story, right? That's why stories are so powerful, because there's integration, because the person has gone through the activations and the clearing and in relation to the specific thing. And when you tell the story, you're sharing those quotes, right? So anyway, so sleeping and just like, with these energies, like all night long and getting all these downloads. But so, yeah, my body was clearing, so I had a lot of how I thought solar energy was coming in, because it's how I normally feel the activations and the purchase from the solar energy. So it was chills and then, like tightness and a scratchy throat and like extra phlegm and all this stuff. But it just moves through in like 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. So, it's just energy moving. And so I kept looking to see when the solar was going to come. And I'm like, no, it's from this energy, from the codes and the stones and how everything that she infused in it, and their own energy as well. And it's connected to the Shasta energy. So you got the whole root chakra that's connected to the root chakra and the first Stargate, all these things that I've been learning. And now I'm like, okay, no wonder all this stuff has been coming to me, right? Okay. But so the huge sort of like upgrade, and I could say, oh, I upgraded and I up leveled. I could distance my power and be like, because of these stones, and yay, little me, needed help. And it's like, no, I manifested that as part of what my version of this up leveling and clearing and alignment into this sort of fast track energy that we're getting into. So you're going to have something in your life that's completely different. I tend to do things in sort of dramatic ways. I have Leo on the IC, and my friend does too, my friend next door. And so we were like, what is that? And we looked it up, and it's like, you learn and you like to create dramatic situations for yourself, like, oh yeah, that's true. But we all have our different ways of anchoring these energies. And so there was a lot that shifted in my body because of a physical thing, because of a stone. It wasn't just an energy coming from the sky as usual, a comet or a solar thing, or, an activation from, some information I'm getting or whatever. It was a literal physical thing. At the same exact time, 2 days before I signed up with Allura, I had been guided to get an Andara that I could wear. And so you might have been seeing it in some of my photos, but it's big and it's like powerful. And I've worked with Andaras for, like the last 10 years. So I'm familiar with that energy, but I was wearing that nonstop as well. So I had the Andara and the crystal. And so there was a synergy going on between them. So it was like double time. I was being guided to like double time do it. And then one night Allura's pendant fell off, the Shasta pendant fell off. And I was just like, oh my God, thank God, and so I started taking them off at night. And then later when I shared with her what I had gone through, she's like, oh yeah, these are like high frequency stones. They're not for resting. And I was like, well, I had to do it that way. I had to like, really like infuse myself full blown, because I tend to do things that way. But now, it's like the other thing that's interesting is I've worn medicine, stones around my neck non-stop for 10 years. And so, I always had, like Yeming I wore for years. I had a raw emerald. I wore, you might remember that I have it in like every reading. I wore that Botswana agate nonstop for 6 years, and I'd kind of change out the one above it. And then before that, it was like other stones. And so I always had stone medicine. I always had some kind of support. And that night when that thing fell off and I was like, fuck it, I'm taking off the Andara too. It was the first time in like 10 years that I had nothing around my neck. Now I have all these great necklaces. I just change them out. Do I want pyrite today? Do I want hematite? What do I want? It's like, I am the crystal now. I am the crystal. I don't need to have it strapped on me, right? I can just use it for like, what friend do I want to talk to today? This type of thing. But like at night, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like nothing there. So that feels really significant too. Oh, that's a pretty bird. I think that's the blue jay actually, but it looks a little bit different, huh? Anyway, so yeah, so a lot with that, but things happening in the physical, and maybe this isn't true for all of us, but I did have confirmation from this woman, this new friend that I'm collaborating with these days, doing sessions, and now we're just kind of powwowing about stuff as well, because she's been doing the crystal program as well, and we're noticing really magical things. Like she was having dreams about me and because she had a palm stone before she even knew that she was going to do the whole mission or the whole placement, and before I had any idea I was going to do it, before we even knew we were going to start working together. So you know what I mean? It's like just seeing the people that we're being put together with and seeing the behind, seeing a little bit more of the behind, right? And how things are playing out. Even the way things have so miraculously been kind of like rippling into place according to my desires and my home, and just getting things in order, is showing me that there's just, and I always see this in sessions too, it always comes through like, oh, your higher self has I keep seeing koala bears in people, and koala bear is like, spirit has a plan, and so it's just, but even just the energy, it's like your higher self knows exactly what she's doing. Like your human might feel a little disoriented, but your higher self is she's plowing ahead, and she's getting more steam. He or she's getting more steam because there's just less in the way, right? There's more alignment. I noticed that with sessions too, and I've mentioned this before, when things clear and things come into alignment, then your own life force can flow without having to go around in all these little pretzel ways. So you're able to hear better, and you're able to have the confidence to act on it. And then things start quickening in your life, right? Things start quickening. So that's what I feel a lot of us are at, just life and our circumstances and the energies that are coming in, the solar energies, and where we're at in the photon belt, and all the things that I always say, being that energy work that we're going through, right? So a lot with that. I'm going to jump into the cards now. I just talked for a half hour. Hope it made sense. It felt like I was just kind of rambling as usual, but I know a lot came through. Wow. That's interesting. So wasp spirit, sometimes life stings. And it's interesting because I got this card for myself, and there is a 64. That's a 10, a number of completion. I got this card for myself the day that Jane and I went out to the Middle Fork on the 33rd degree parallel, and we got caught in the hailstorm. And I thought that was so funny because it was big and they were stinging. I didn't get hit too much. I had a big hat, and I had a rain poncho on and stuff like that, but it was hitting the backs of my legs, and we were both kind of like, I can think this hurts, so it's interesting. But again, that thing, just the symbolism of like the rattlesnake, and then the hail, and then on Wednesday when we go up we have to climb the mountain. We have to climb up the freaking mountain. It's going to be 93 degrees. So Jane was like, first the rattlesnake for you, then the hail for us, and now the heat, where there's got to be some kind of trial, some kind of thing that you some kind of sting, that it's part of it. So it's just that reminder of like, when we're expanding and when we're moving out of eons of distortion, there's gonna be some adjustments, and in that adjustment there's gonna be some pain. We're gonna maybe cry a lot, or we're gonna feel a lot of negative emotions, or our bodies are gonna hurt, or we're gonna and even as, because it's just so symbolic with these crystal placements. It's like it's a journey, we're making our way. There's a destination. You put the crystal in the crack in the rock bed, and then you move on to the next location. But along the way, there's some sort of trial. There's a rattlesnake that's threatening to chase you and bite you, or, you got to walk out and the whole way out, rush through the stinging hail and then drive through it, 5 miles per hour, all these things, right? Or you got to hike up and in 93 degree weather, In the desert, yeah. And yet you got to do it. You got to do your sewer crawls. And just knowing that. So this is bringing back to what I was saying and what I heard this morning. So I think this is, aside from my ramblings, which were whatever they were, this seems to be a message that really wants to come through right now. Is that aside from what you're going through, because I think for a lot of people with these energies, it's like fast track. So it's getting us into alignment. It's getting us on our path. It's pushing us forward, and anything that's in the way is going to go. So it's going to be compressed. And of course, this has been happening all along, but it's been slower. And even though it was really, really hard back then, it's like, it's like we had time to integrate, or, it just feels really intense right now. And I think a lot of people are struggling, and part of that struggle becomes worse when we blame ourselves, or we have shame, or we feel something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Sometimes life stings, and it has to sting. It has to sting, because it's there. Look, there's the Celtic knot, the weaving behind here. It reminds me of a Celtic knot anyway. I guess it's a wasp nest. I don't know. It's probably lots of things, but we're completing something. We're completing the first phase of our missions. There's this fast track onto this anchoring down in the physical. Again, the 6-6, where we're anchoring ourselves down in, but we got to get our pure transmission. So that means every time we up level, there's a purge of everything that's not a match to you, like our homes, we're rearranging to match you, or your relationships, or your habits, or your whatever, rearranging the words that you're using, the energy in your body. Yeah. And so I just want to say, if you do feel like you would like support, because I was going to say, the guidance to have support, so if you would like to do an energy session to move some of this stuff, if you are feeling kind of clogged up, and like you'd like some assistance in helping to clear and rebalance and stabilize, please reach out. The energy work is pretty much all I'm doing right now. It's been, I do have 2 personal tarot readings. I have one today and one tomorrow, but yeah, it's been a lot with the energy work. So there's a lot flowing. It feels like it's very supported right now. So just keeping that in mind, feel free to reach out. But yeah, again, it's like just embracing and accepting that, the trials and the places that hurt, it's something to be celebrated. And it's almost like the crazier, the better. I say that a lot. Or like the more painful, the better, because that you're really unplugging these patterns and you're loosening things up so that they can clear completely. So just that reminder. And again, coming back to that number 10, that number of completion and also new beginning. It's why it's so intense right now. I know for some people it's really intense. Yeah. The tower, exactly. Okay. The tower, that's where everything just kind of crumbles and explodes and is really intense, and you feel really overwhelmed and came out of nowhere and you don't know what to do. So just, again, that reminder of like, it's exactly right. It's exactly perfect. You're exactly where you need to be, and you are going to get through this. And if you need support, reach out for support, for whomever you're guided to reach out for support with. Even just talking with a friend or collaborating, that 2 or more energy is really, really powerful in moving and stabilizing energy. That's the other thing that I've been really guided to do, is to move, to keep things moving and to stay in the physical. And so when my body was really tight, I wasn't doing a lot, because I was like, I'm in so much pain, like I need to rest, but I was like, no, I need to get into nature. So this is a few weeks ago, but I went for a walk. For friends on Facebook, you might remember this post, and I accidentally got on this like new trail, this bike trail, and it took me up like really, really high, and there were like these amazing views that I had never seen from that point before, and there were all these like yucca stalks, and it was like so amazing. There was such this huge energy, but there was like these areas, like I don't know how that frick people did it on their bikes. I guess like people that like a challenge, and they just, but there were like things that I literally had to like crab crawl down, and just like basically on like my hands and knees, and to like get down this thing, and my body was so sore, but when I started, but by the end of it, I was loose, so I was like, oh my gosh, we just need to move. Same thing. I've been having all this guidance around dancing and like, just like moving the body and moving things around in your house, or like moving things out of the house, or crying, or like journaling. Like I've been doing a lot of sort of like automatic writing, where I'll sort of or even I'll do that just in meditation, where I'll ask a question and then I'll pay attention to what's coming in, and that kind of thing. Just like moving the energy, moving the energy. Gardening, right? For a lot of us, it's in the northern hemisphere, it's beautiful now, it's hot, but we're actually just getting hot. It's been kind of mild, interestingly. Normally we would have already been like up towards 100 by now, but but it's been really mild. I think probably this week when we go at the top of the mountain is gonna be like the hottest that it's been yet. But anyway, a lot with kind of getting into the physical, and I want to say a little bit more about that because I don't know if I really completed that thought where it's like we're interfacing with the physical, like me with the crystals, where I normally don't do that type of thing, but I felt really guided to, and that the physical things are whole. It's like how we're merging spirit and matter. So like the intention into the crystal, and then the way those intentions and those codes activated me and then affected my body, and then placing the actual crystal in these PowerPoints around the world, and having them activate the grids, right? The interface with the energetic and the physical feels really, really important right now. I keep getting that message. However that's coming through for you, whether it's dancing or painting or writing or speaking, with a voice, but just getting it out and putting it out somewhere, or arranging. Like I love to, most of the things that I have in my house, a lot of them have been from dreams, where like I'll have a dream and it'll be really powerful and I want to anchor it in the physical. So I'll find a physical item to represent that, and then I'll anchor it in. And some of them, I don't even remember what it was because it's been so integrated, but a lot of my house is just an expression, or the colors, or the plants, an expression of my soul life, or an expression of the stones and the plants, the natural world, the truth codes, just something where I can feel myself reflected around me, creating those sanctuaries around us in our yards, or this type of thing where we're representing our souls in the physical through our self-expression. Okay. That feels, I just keep getting that message over and over and over again. I think that's always important, but it feels really important now, and not just for the sake of grounding, like we're like, oh, do this because it's good for you and it grounds you and it helps you see your energy around you. It's because there's like a interfacing. We're literally infusing the grids. I was talking about this the last maybe 2 readings ago, where everything that we're doing is grid work, because and I'm seeing this in sessions as well, where like once people really clear and they're releasing their a fuller version of themselves than they ever have before, I see it come out their feet and into the earth, where the earth is like, yes, give me that. Like I want that. I want all of you, the feminine energy that wants and wants more and more and more. Like she's been longing for your particular code. So it's like when your energy starts to flow, she's like, yes. It's like the earth needs us. The humanity needs us. The cosmic arena needs us to be connected to the earth with our original frequency, not distorted, not trying to do what so-and-so or everybody's programmed you to think you need to do, or not trying to match, all the things, right? Your own unique version of all that is. But there's the planting in the earth, right? Literally the earth needs your signature. The earth needs your contribution of you running your energy, so however you run your energy, however you run it, it's being planted, right? When you're running it through a pure channel, it's being planted. And just remembering that, it's like, again, it's like, we are the crystals, we are, and that's absolutely true. And sometimes we're asked to really interface with the physical, because it creates that connection. It like unites the two of them. That's what it is. It's like there's something about uniting the spirit and matter right now that's very important. I don't have the words for it really. And when my friend and I were communing yesterday, neither of us really have the words, but she said something like it opens a door. And so it's like, it connects that spirit and matter, but then it changes things too. So that's what I'm finding, like when I was working with those stones, and then they cleared my energy, and then that changed my body, and then that changed like my transmission, and then it, just like the ripples of that. And I think everything that's going on in my life is a ripple of that, but then you up level into a whole nother level, and then this is like your transmission, and then you attract in a whole different set of things, and then that changes you even more, right? So it's exponential, whereas before it was a lot slower. You might change, and then you integrate, it's just like really slow, and then you might pull something in that creates a different reaction, and it was slow. Right now it's just like boom, 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 like that. Like you can't even track it. So it reminds me of that Hopi poem about being in the river. Like you're in the river now, look who's in there with you. Look who's in there with you. You're not standing on the sides anymore. And that's what I was talking about with that energy that was coming in, where I was like, oh, I'm coming up on this, and now I'm in it. And the it that I'm in is my own flow. It's my own flow of my unique energetic signature, but in that, then I'm connected to everything else, right? So there's unity and individuation at the same time. And then we're just being carried. So it's like just throwing up your arms, you don't need to control, you don't need to know how, you don't need to know when, you just desire what you desire when you desire it, and then you move on to the next thing, like so much in the moment, right? Like when you move on to the next thing and then something unfolds and then you go over here, and it's almost like I feel like there's like corralling where you might come up on a certain thing and it's like, no, not there, it's not working there. So then you're like, oh, there, okay, and then you go there and then you might, right? It's like we're just being real. It's the kind of effortless, when you're not, because in the past we might have been like, no, I really want to go this way, and you can do that for like 10 years. Now we know, we're just like, oh, just slide around, okay, and you just, like water, we're moving like water. So there's the river again. We're in the river, we are the river. So that last placement that I did with the Gila River, which is the last undammed, river in the Southwest. And it holds the frequency of that, it holds the codes of that. And so I had to like walk through the water to get to the cliff face that was easy to climb, where I could get up and put it in there. And, I had to climb over the Beavers Dam, and I had to, right. And we were with the water, and then we had the hail and the rain and the thunder. So there was a lot with the water. And then we came home and it was, raining and raining and raining. And just the message of the water, not only does the water hold the original memory of unity that cannot be broken, and it links us up to that, but it also shows us how to do it, to flow and to allow, and to not try or force. It's asking us to be in our feminine energy, and in our sensual energy as well. So there's that being in the physical. Like my friend gave me these beautiful flowers. Look at these flowers. This is a yerba mansa flower, and the Mexican hat, and this is all feverfew, and it smells so amazing. And the yellow yarrow and a little bit of purple sage. Aren't they so beautiful? And it's like that, like taking a moment, because when I was going to do the stone placement, I was like, oh my God, look at these clovers. And they were, growing over. So I took a video of the clover, and then I saw these weird like barnacle nest things under the rock, and the light was reflecting on it. And so like stopping and smelling the roses, right? We're in the moment, and we're enjoying, and we're in the flow. And then whatever it needs to come to us comes in the exact moment that it's possible to. Like it can't come a moment before, or a moment too late, and being in that flow. So huge message of water. Let's see what else we get here. Oh, beautiful. The 3 of Wands. So yeah, just another reminder of the ships are coming in. You've put in your order. Okay. So there it is again, where the 2 of Wands is like, oh, I want this, it's just this primal, it's like an alignment where you're like, this is aligned. This is the right energy. Like, this isn't the right energy. I don't want that anymore. Like there's something else that's the right energy. So I'm aligning with that. And then you just sort of move on about your day. And this is it coming in. It's like your prayer was heard, your desire, your alignment, your acknowledgement and perception of the alignment of that which wants to come to you. Since you've acknowledged it, it's again, meeting spirit and matter. It's like it's here, like, hey, this is would like to come to you. And then you're like, oh, you know what? I would like this, yeah, because you're hearing this, you just don't know it, right? And then it's like, oh, cool, thank you, now I can come to you. So the importance of those desires, because all of this is trying to come in for us, and so even like me being like, oh, I wanted a new couch. Like I have this, I had this ratty ass futon for 25 years, and it was slouchy and uncomfortable and hard to clean, and it was ugly, and I hated it. But I just, I didn't like even think to hate it, right? And one day I looked at it and I was like, I don't like that anymore. Like I want to replace that with a different couch, but I didn't have money for a couch, and like I didn't plan on doing anything about it. I just said it. And then within like 2 days later, my son came, and he sleeps on this couch that was over here, and it was giving him sciatica. So we were like, okay, we'll get a proper bed. I'll get like a day bed, those aren't expensive, and we'll just get this day bed. And so I had to get rid of one of my couches. So it was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to get rid of this. But there was this whole string of coyote events that led to this. I wasn't even thinking about what I had just said 2 days prior. But anyway, I ended up moving his couch over to here, and it's so pretty. Like it's such a pretty couch instead of this ugly futon. Anyway, just stuff like that, like where, you know, you say what you want, but you don't even care about whether or not you get it. You don't even know how you're going to get it. You just allow yourself to want what you want, because the truth is it's already on its way to you. And again, this isn't just about like physical items with the couch. It's about the flow of energy and how it needs to be moving and matching and aligning, because again, we're merged with our environments and everything is shifting to reflect us. So our desires and the coming in of our desires are a reflection of the changes that are happening in our energy. You see what I mean? So it's all a reflection. So I know a lot of us feel like, oh, I can't have that. Because so again, like my friend and I going into that 13th energy, that 13th gate, it's like the lack and limitation. Like, well, I can't have it because I wanted it before and it never came, or I don't need that, or it's okay, or, you know, whatever. But if there's something that's coming up, it's coming up for a reason, and just that reminder to not negate our desires or needs or wants, because there's flow in them. And when we block the flow, because our desires, again, like the wands, that's that sacral energy, again, the orange, oh yeah, I was talking about that. I didn't finish that thought. How Laura, because I was talking about the orange and how and I'd never heard this, how orange was a lot about community. And so the communing and the working with others and that kind of thing. But yeah, so the wands being a lot about that sacral, that orange, that creation, that co-creation, which is connected to life force and life activation, kundalini, flow, spirituality, you know, activation, clearing, all of this. And we don't want to block that. We don't want to block that. And so our desires and our wishes and our dreams, when we don't block it, we don't attach to it, because the attachment comes from, oh, but I can't have it, I really want it, you know, and I'm not gonna be able to have it, and maybe I need to try to make it happen and let me get in my head. If it just is flowing like water, you know, the spark of fire that wants, but then we let it flow like water, then it can come, because there's no blocking, there's no concept, there's no lack and limitation in there. Yeah, a lot of unraveling. So this 13th gate, this 13th energy, which Laura was talking about too. And then the woman I was communing with, she was saying somebody else was talking about it as well. And it's like, you know, everything is within the matrix, right? And then moving beyond the 13, representing the goddess, the water, the flow, right? So a lot with that. Let's see what this is. Oh, beautiful, the sun. So there's that activation energy. There's also that illumination energy. So this would be like a quick read. Sometimes life hurts, shit's gonna fall apart, you're gonna fall apart. It's taking you exactly where you need to go, into this illumination and unity where everything makes sense again. Okay, so that's the quick version of this reading for anybody that needed to hear that. Let's see what this oracle, the shaman oracle. Okay, yeah. And so Fool's Embrace, transmuting pain. So there it is again, another indication of this type of energy. So yeah, I guess a lot of people are really feeling the crunch, but I'm kind of in the energy of this. So may this be a transmission and an encouragement for you if you are in this energy, because this is what it's all for, and this is what's coming. It's guaranteed. This is like an inevitability. Like you've put in your order, you know, the spirit and matter have met, and now you've made the hookup, and so now it can come through. A lot of the times when we're in this is when we make the hookup, because we yearn for our light. We yearn for relief. We yearn for safety. We yearn for stability, and we call it in. It's like, you know, we need to break in order to reach for that which is trying to come to us, right? So sometimes we need to break, and in doing that, but remembering also that this light is here with you, and that we're transmuting through that. So there's nothing is wasted. There's no mistake. There's no fault. There's no blame. It's all exactly perfect, and it needs to be done. Yeah, it needs to be done. So I think I'm going to pull one more card and then kind of close out this reading. That one flew the whole way off the table. Oh my goodness, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. What is it? Okay. All right. Oh, beautiful. So we get Tree of Life, 10, 11, 12, 13, and that does add up to 13. I'm not going to collapse it because we're talking about the 13. And so there's sort of that web, you know, which can connect to the water, you know, the original unbreakable truth of this reality, the energetics that might be covered up, they might be diverted, they might be fractured and fragmented, but this original alignment, configuration, geometry, a harmonic is still there. It's always repairable, even the way these are twisting, they might have been separated, but now they're being woven back together. It's like, just that reminder. And again, the 13. And so there's the illusion of lack and limitation, the illusion of being the full, embrace that full, because that's part of how we're weaving this all back together. Things got fragmented. We need to bring it back in order to do that. We have to crack it open so that we're not aligned and embracing the false reality, embracing the wrong thing. We're embracing the breakdown of the reality, the stinging and the pain and the hurt that humanity and ourselves are going through, because it's what we need to do. We all kind of need to trek through that to come back into this illumination and wholeness. And once you go through that sewer crawl and you embrace it, because the more you can embrace it, again, Fool's Embrace, the more you can embrace it and have gratitude for it, the faster it's going to move, because you're not going to be clogging up the energy. So, it's like that with the nervous system. When we're scared or we tense, then we have tension, and then we have inflammation, and then we're not breathing, we're holding our breath, and then we're overthinking, all this contraction. So the more we can just relax and trust and flow and allow it all, the faster it can move. That's what was happening for me with my body activations through the solar energy. And I've talked about this many, many times, but in case you're new, it'd be like I would tense and worry and Google and all this. And now I just throw up my arms, and it's like the thing with the crystals where it's like, okay, just move through me, and it can move through in a few hours instead of weeks or months, because with the contraction and the worry and the fear, you're recreating the symptoms, and where the symptoms are just energy trying to move, right? So that type of thing. So whether it's in the mental realm or the emotional realm or the relational realm or the things falling apart in your life realm, it's like celebrate it, because it's the river, it's the rapids, but it's taking you where you need to go. It's taking you back into this unity and this harmony. It's taking you into the 13. It's taking you beyond the 12, beyond the capping system, beyond the structures that our whole world is running on, and it's what we think is true, but there's this whole other doorway. And so again, the meeting of spirit and matter, the joining of things in the physical, opening up that doorway, like my friend said, opening up that doorway that leads you further and further along the line, down the river into this type of energy, but allowing, following that guidance, even if it's something that you wouldn't normally do, going to that event or doing that thing or meeting with that person or whatever it is. If you're getting a nudge to do that, again, I just noticed the 22, which is a master builder number, and coming out with this Fool's Embrace. So that's what I was talking about before, where a lot of the work that we do in the astral at night, rocking back and forth in our bed and this type of thing, that's where we've built this new template. That's where we've unplugged the programs from our bodies and from the astral field, and where we've rippled out sort of like tags of clarity into these programs and systems. And a lot of that, of us doing that for a really long time. It reminds me again of the Monopoly card that I have on my fridge, and I bring this up in a lot of readings. I kept it. It was a community card. There's the orange in the community where two or more gather, and it was, you helped build a new playground. Now you get to try out the slide first. So every time we're in these dark passages, these falling, stingy, ouchy passages, we're building the template for our own restructuring of our reality. So remember, again, it's all a reflection of where we're at inside of ourselves. So as we're breaking down and crunching and transmuting, we're changing our energetic signature. Then we're putting out a different broadcast, and different things start coming in. The unification and the flow and the instant manifestation starts coming in and flowing. So that's why I say, the more of this, the better. The worse you feel, the better. Because once you crack on through out beyond that 12 into the 13, then you get to live in the true limitlessness of this reality. And that's where we're all headed. That's where we're all headed. And we need to take the steps that are in front of us to get there. We can't bypass we can't bypass this stuff. Some of us sort of, again, like nose to the grind. I guess our souls signed up to really do it kind of hardcore, but we're already starting to feel this energy. So just bringing that message through for any of you that, and I had a lot of codes of this coming through in this, right? So you're in them, you're feeling them, you're in training with them, you're identifying them, you're recognizing them, you're saying yes to them. You're so like when the rain starts to come, if you've ever been in the desert, when the rain isn't, you can always tell it's going to rain because the bacteria in the soil opens up to receive it. It has this certain scent. It's not the scent of rain, it's the scent of the bacteria, and it's opening, you know. So it's like that when you're in an energy that's like holding the frequency, the energy, the transmission of this timeline, of this higher timeline, the truth of reality that we're all moving into. It's like those, it's kind of like that woman, every cell in my body is healthy and happy. It's like every cell in our body is attuned and reaching and waiting for this energetic, right? It's again, it's it's hanging up here where it's like, hey, you know, that's like our cells, but that's also our higher selves. And then when we reach towards it, again, sometimes needing some of these to reach towards it, right? But it recognizes that frequency, and that frequency has an entrainment and a transmission in it that helps you to relax. It helps you to relax in this energy where you can open and flow and invite. Every cell of my being is geared towards and moving towards this wholeness and this return, this 13, this beyond, this limitlessness. And I'm on the exact path. This is also sort of hawk medicine, where you're exactly where you need to be. You're exactly where you need to be because you're going exactly where you need to go. You're receiving exactly what you need to receive. Sometimes even if that looks really awful, there's nothing wrong. You're not missing the boat. You're walking your particular path. Some people chose more density. They came in with more density, or they chose to clear that density a little bit later, like they had other things they needed to do beforehand. So we're all exactly where we need to be for our journeys, for our particular journeys, and just embracing the darkness, embracing the pain as necessary. Again, the compression of the coal into diamond, or the compression of the seed to crack. You know, it's like the darkness is necessary. We're living in the world of polarity where things have been split, and in order to weave them back together, we have to embrace both. So that's a really beautiful message. I am going to do one last closing. I think I'm going to do this deck here. So it's popping out at me. I'm so glad I did that. The Eagle Liberation. Yes, absolutely. And look at that gorgeous yellow that always comes through for me in sessions when something really, really deep clears, something very like galactic, you know, intense, you know, like intense grief type of energy. There will be this infusion of this Christ energy also with the Sophia and the Magdalene energy in it as well. But and the liberation, where it's like once you clear that, and once you're back infused and woven with your light again, then there's this beautiful liberation. Again, the Christ consciousness. When I was talking with my friend, and she was my other friend, the one that I communed with about the 13th, she's like, we're gonna because we were gonna talk about astrology. She asked me if I would support her in looking at some things in her chart, and I was like, well, I'm not really an astrologer, and honestly, like I was like, I'm kind of out of practice. The reason why I was out of practice is because I'm kind of not into astrology anymore. I just like, yeah, like I can see it. I talk about it sometimes. It, you know, sometimes something will come into my frame of reference through synchronicity, where I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's going on with me. But I'm just not really drawn to like look into it or lean into it or anything like that. So I was kind of like, well, we can just like go with our intuition. And, you know, we both kind of felt like we were just going to open up our channels and see what came through. And so when we get on the call, she's like, I'm told we're going to activate the 13th gate. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And I was like, where is it? I thought there were only 12 stargates. But I was kind of like, but I don't think they're talking about a stargate. I think this is something else. And she's like, humanity is the 13th gate. And I was like, I was like, oh my God, it's like Christ consciousness, right? Like all of humanity, that Christ consciousness bringing in our higher. Well, then we started unpacking the astrology, where it was like, it was part of the limitation. It was part of the system. It was created within the system of limitation. So although it can be accurate and it can be helpful, it still has an inherent limitation in it. And so it was like, it helped me understand why I wasn't interested, you know, and it was like just kind of dumping that whole thing. And her and I were just, you know, going through all those clearings and activations manifestations, that liberation within yourself where you're reaching outside of the firmament, like even things that seem really cool and helpful and they match up and wow, let's study this. It's like, it's still part of the program. It's still created within the program. It still has limitations. So it's like we can, use it when it comes in. We can do whatever we want. But for me, it's like I use it when it comes in through synchronicity, just like anything else. But I don't rely on it to define reality for me because it's defining a smaller thing, So again, that liberation out that 13th gate through that Christ consciousness. That's why I brought that up, because it reminded me of the Christ consciousness. And there's the orange in the center again, through our Kundalini or spiritual activation, allowing that life force energy to flow, removing. This is what allows it to flow because it removes the blocks. Again, if you'd like assistance, I don't mean to be like, I'm not trying to sell myself, but it just reminds me, because I think, when we're in this energy, it does help. It kind of reminds me of, I used to work with people in the ayahuasca community, and they would come in and their arc field would be like all scattered because they'd unleash so much in the ceremonies but it wasn't really integrated, and it'd be kind of hanging in the field. And that happens for us through, anything that, a lot of us don't need ayahuasca or stuff like that to shake ourselves up because our soul signed up to go through fucking hell here. But yeah, just having some assistance and helping to clear out, because sometimes we kick up so much and we can still feel it. And it just helps, again, where two or more gather, the orange, the community, to have some assistance in clearing and restabilizing. So just throwing that out there again at the end. All right. Thank you for joining me and for listening, and hang in there if you're in this, and remember that where this is going. And I hope that the energy that was coming through me today, this liberation energy, was helpful and supportive to you in those invisible ways. All right. Much love to you all. Okay. Bye.